All right, let's dive into this. Welcome to today's Explainer, where we are going to unpack a deeply unsettling and honestly terrifying piece of folklore. We're looking at an urban legend that has literally gripped a remote region for over half a century. We're going to completely dissect the story behind this legend to understand the anatomy of a perfect myth. How it actually starts, the unbreakable rules it sets up, and the absolutely horrifying consequences when people decide to break those rules. So get comfortable, because this narrative is a total masterclass in suspense.
So, what if a single knock on your door could cost you your life? I mean, it sounds like a simple, almost innocent question, right? But in the context of our story today, it is a deadly serious proposition. Just imagine a scenario where the incredibly mundane act of answering your own front door is a guaranteed death sentence. This central question is the main engine that drives the entire terrifying narrative we're about to explore.
Part 1. The Legend of Jakhol.
To really understand this threat, we have to look at the environment where it thrives. High up in the mountains, surrounded by these towering peaks and an endless suffocating expanse of forests, lies the remote village of Jakhol. It's a place that is entirely cut off from the rest of the world. A thick blanket of fog rolls down from the mountains and physically swallows the village whole. It's an incredibly atmospheric, isolated setting, which makes it perfectly primed for a legend to take root. Now, this isolation hits its absolute peak during a very specific time, the new moon night. On these nights, the sky is pitch black, almost like the moon itself has abandoned the world. The whole atmosphere in Jakhol shifts entirely. This eerie silence hangs over the village. The narrow streets are completely empty, and not even a single stray dog is outside. This lunar phase acts as a deadly catalyst, a trigger for something seriously sinister.
And that brings us to the core rule of Jakhol. For generations, this ancient warning has been passed down from one family to another, basically acting as a strict survival guide. The warning is simple but absolute. If someone knocks on your door 3 times on a new moon night, never open it. The legend states that a mysterious veiled woman is the one out there knocking, and anyone who actually opens the door is found dead by sunrise. It's an unbreakable, lethal rule that has governed this village for 50 years.
Part 2. 3 deadly knocks.
So the crucial point is, what actually happens when someone decides this ancient rule is just a silly story? Well, enter Balram. He's a young farmer preparing to leave his old wooden house, all wrapped up in a thick wool blanket with a lantern. He essentially represents the skeptic, the modern mind that looks at 50 years of generational trauma and just dismisses it as nothing more than a myth about a witch. Notice the intense dramatic irony here. On one side, we have his terrified mother. Her face is completely drained of color, and she is desperately pleading with him that nobody leaves the house on a new moon night. But on the other side, we have Balram's practical logic. He literally laughs at her. His crops are ready for harvest, wild animals are roaming around outside, and he needs to protect his livelihood. He prioritizes a tangible, earthly threat over what he strongly believes is just an imaginary one.
But before Balram can even finish explaining away the myth, the knocking begins. The legend outlines this masterful escalation of tension. Step 1. 3 knocks echo through the house. Balram freezes. His mother's eyes just widen with pure terror. Step 2. After a moment of this paralyzing silence, 3 more knocks hit the door, sounding way deeper and heavier this time. Balram begins to actually walk toward the door. And finally, step 3. Despite his mother begging him not to, the final 3 knocks sound out and Balram throws the door open.
Part 3. The Midnight Entity.
By opening that door into the thick fog, Balram shatters the 50-year-old rule of Jakhol. We instantly shift from a story of suspense into a face-to-face encounter with a terrifying reality. We're meeting the midnight entity that has held this village hostage. Standing outside in the fog is a woman shrouded in a long veil, heavy anklets jingling softly around her feet. Balram asks, "Who are you?" And the response he gets is delivered in this rotten, raspy voice. "If you had looked at my feet, you wouldn't need to ask." This chilling dialogue forces Balram and us to look closer. When he glances downward, his blood runs cold.
And this brilliantly illustrates the sheer horror of this entity. The legend gives us a clinical, horrifying breakdown of her physical traits. Her feet are twisted entirely backward. When a sudden powerful gust of wind lifts her veil, the true nightmare is revealed. Balram sees a face that is completely decayed and swollen.
Her eyes are glowing a piercing yellow. Long yellow teeth protrude from her mouth, carrying the literal stench of death, and her fingernails are long, sharp claws.
Terrified, Balram stumbles backward, but it is way too late. The attack is brutal, and it's completely supernatural. He can't run. An invisible force physically drags him toward her. Her skeletal hand wraps violently around his throat, cutting off his scream. In the very next second, this entity hurls him nearly 10 feet into the air. He crashes to the ground, his bones twisting unnaturally. His screams echo briefly through the fog, before suddenly and permanently stopping.
Part 4. A Dark Connection.
Let's move to and see how this builds, because the story definitely does not end with Balram's demise. The myth is real, the rule is broken, and the ultimate cost was paid. But legends rarely stay contained to just one isolated mountain village, especially in the modern age. The story traces a fascinating timeline of how quickly this spreads. The morning after the attack, the terrified villagers find Balram's lifeless body in the square, his mother crying uncontrollably. But soon after, the outside world intrudes. A paranormal YouTuber named Amit arrives on his motorcycle, having heard strange stories floating around online. And from Amit's investigation, the story jumps hundreds of miles away to modern-day Delhi, where college students are watching Amit's video on their screens.
This creates an absolutely incredible contrast in how the legend is perceived. In the village, Amit asks the elder what happened to Balram, and the trembling elder simply replies, "She happened." The elder hints that this all began 50 years ago, clearly guarding a dark, terrifying secret before warning Amit to leave. Meanwhile, over in Delhi, a student named Atul is laughing out loud. To him, a ghost that knocks 3 times and kills people is just an absurd internet story. It's real, visceral terror versus modern digital skepticism.
But that skepticism vanishes in an instant. We're hit with a stark, sudden cliffhanger. Another student in the room, Aryan, hears the name of the village, Jakhol. Instantly, he turns incredibly pale. The smile just completely vanishes from his face. After a heavy, long silence, Aryan reveals a dark connection to his friends. I was born in Jakhol.
Which leaves us with a final, provocative thought to wrap up today's explainer. What exactly is Aryan hiding from his friends? How is he connected to a 50-year-old curse involving a veiled woman with backward feet? And how will the collision of this ancient, isolated horror and the modern world actually play out? The story leaves us hanging right on the edge, desperate to learn exactly what happened in Jakhol half a century ago.